I'm Devin Burke. I'm the founder of Sleep Science Academy. I'm a sleep coach, I'm a TEDx speaker, and I'm on a mission to help inspire people to understand the power and importance of sleep and to help give them the tools so that they can sleep better, so that they can wake up and live more. And I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, Devin, I'm just excited as you. Sleep is really important, like we talked about earlier, to me. And I'm excited to bring it to more teens, especially our teen entrepreneurs. Devin, first of all, when kids are thinking of career choices in the future, they'll say, I want to be a doctor, lawyer, veterinarian, I want to be a teacher, right? Very few people to say, I want to be a sleep coach. So, why did you decide to become a sleep coach?
That's a great question, and I'm over. I'm smiling because I had no idea that I was going to be a sleep coach, and honestly, I didn't even know that sleep coaching when I was, a young man didn't even exist. I don't think. So this is definitely an up and coming career path and a much needed one. But what inspired me really was I saw how big of a problem people had sleeping. And I also saw that people needed better tools and education to get better and more sleep. And so really it came out of a need that I saw a need that people were suffering. They weren't getting enough sleep. And we work mostly with adults. So I know we're going to be talking to about teenage entrepreneurs sleeping on this podcast, but it was came out of a need that I saw and wanted to fulfill. And so that's like any entrepreneur, you find a need and then you figure out how you can solve it. And so that's really I feel inspired to be able to solve that for people because sleep is so important. I'm sure we're going to be talking about that today.
Yeah, so Devin, there are, of course, other medical professions, and you would go to a school, right? You go to, medical school, you go to dental school. So, how is there a sleep school type thing for people who want to have maybe like a major in sleep?
Yeah, so I mean, you can go to school to become a sleep doctor or a neuroscientist, or there's a lot of different tracks in more of the academic, or like academia. The way that I became a coach, specifically helping people sleep, is a little eclectic. So my background actually is in exercise physiology and health promotion, and I was going to become a doctor of physical therapy, and so I had gotten into a program down in Florida and I realized I wasn't that passionate about it, which then led me to enrolling in a health coach program, a year-long health coach program. And health coaching is exploding right now all over the world because people are so unhealthy. And then that led me to start to study all different types of psychological techniques and learn from mentors and take different really immersive experiences either through learning from an expert in a sort of immersive way or going to actual events. And so a lot of my education actually is not traditional. It's more from experience and it's more from learning from experts specifically. And eventually there are certifications in sleep coaching. I have two. And actually one of the goals of with Sleep Science Academy is to create a curriculum for people that want to be sleep coaches later down the road. So that's something that is in the works for all the young people listening to this. That if this sounds exciting to you, in the near future, there'll be a way that you can learn how to support people the way that we do.
Yeah, I would be really interested in being able to be a certified sleep coach at a young age. And that story resembles a lot of, a lot of entrepreneurs. Elon Musk learned rocket science from books. I know you read a lot of books about sleep when you were starting off.
Yeah, a lot. Again, if you're interested and passionate about something, um, I think sometimes it's actually you can get further faster outside of a traditional. college or track. Now, I'm all for education, I'm all for learning, but I think that you can get further faster from just, reading books, taking courses, learning from experts. And so, one of the books that really inspired me in the beginning was Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, who's a PhD sleep scientist. And it's a phenomenal book on the, oh, there it is. All right. Yeah, it's a phenomenal book on really understanding the physiology of sleep. And that was one of the first books that I picked up that really inspired me to really open my eyes to, wow, this is a really important topic, and there's a lot more to sleep and sleeping than I ever knew. And so that's so awesome that you picked up that book. I love it.
Yeah, and I know there's a quote in your book where you talk about how sleep was just something that you do, like you every day at 9, 10, 11. You just go to sleep in the morning. You wake up, boom. So why? What's the importance, Devin, behind sleep?
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing. When we sleep, there's a lot that happens that we're not aware of. And I was ignorant to this. I had no idea. But when we sleep, that's when our bodies repair. That's when our minds repair. That's when our cells repair. That's when our hormones are released, our immune system rebuilds. That's when we work out the emotional traumas of the day. That's when we're able to really connect the dots as far as short-term memory to long-term storage. There's so much that happens during the night that we're just not aware of. And so it a lot is happening in certain stages of sleep, Ben. Our brains are just as active as when we're awake. And so sleep is not a waste of time, and it's not like dead time, if you will. It's, you can solve problems while you sleep. There's so much that happens. You burn fat when you sleep. So there's a lot going on when you sleep, which is why it's so important to protect and prioritize it.
And like I said, there's so many different things that happen while you sleep. Now, of course, this is probably subjective to different people, but what would you say is pretty high up there in terms of importance, like the one of the most important things that happens while you sleep?
I would say the most important thing is that your body repairs itself. So I like to give the analogy. It's kind of like if a trash truck comes into your body and starts to remove all the waste. Because if that doesn't happen, your body, if your body's not repairing, if your muscles aren't repairing, if the toxic cells are not being cleared out from your body and brain, you're not going to live very long. And so that is, I would say, the biggest reason why we need sleep. Beyond all the other reasons, it's just that's when our cells repair. And so, yeah, if there's anything that you remember from this podcast, it's that. And if you want to grow healthy, strong bones, if you want to live a long time, if you want to be the best version of yourself, physically, mentally, emotionally, you need to sleep, and you need to prioritize it.
Yeah, definitely agree. And I know there's a lot of technical things that I wanted to kind of talk about to simplify down, right, for the everyday person, everyday teenager. But on that note, a lot of entrepreneurs they pride themselves on overworking, undersleeping. How is that harming them in terms of productivity, which is, I guess, the highest of their priority?
Yeah, well, the biggest way it's harming them, Ben, is how it's affecting their ability to make good decisions. And so if you're an entrepreneur, if you're somebody that has is getting paid to make decisions, and decisions that have a massive impact not only for your company but for the world, you want to make sure that you're able to make good decisions. And so there's so much research that shows when you don't sleep, you make bad decisions, you make mistakes. And some of the biggest mistakes in history have been caused from sleep deprivation. And someone that I highly respect, and I think he is at this point, I don't know if he's the richest man in the world anymore, Jeff Bezos. when they asked him what the secret to his success was, he said sleep, because he knows that when he sleeps better, he makes better decisions. Yeah, he's a huge believer in sleep, and I love that, because there is that kind of negative stigma that you snooze, you lose. You know, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Um, it's a waste of time, but really it isn't. It's necessary to make good decisions.
Right. Right. I've seen that quote so many times from Jeff Bezos, like saying, what's your key to success? 8 hours a night." And now going back to the technical side of it, there's two things that kind of control sleep. There's your circadian rhythm, I believe is how you say it, and then your anadocin, I think. So can you explain those concepts a little bit? And adenosine, yes. Can you explain those concepts?
Yeah, no problem. So the two sleep systems, circadian rhythm and what we call sleep pressure. Okay, so those are the two systems. So we'll start with circadian rhythm. I'll try to just keep it as simple as possible. So circadian rhythm you can think of as your body's natural clock. So they found that actually all of our organs and even actually all of our cells have little clocks in them. And these it's important for these clocks to stay in sync. And how they stay in sync is from light and darkness. And so I'm not going to get super technical here, but essentially, a circadian means around the day. So at certain points during the day, certain hormones are released and certain things happen, and it's all orchestrated to allow our bodies to function. And so circadian rhythms are so critical to our health, but especially to our sleep. So that's the one system. So circadian rhythms, it's our natural body clock, and then sleep pressure, which is when adenosine, which is a neurochemical, builds up in our bodies, and this is also found in a lot of, I think, almost all of our cells. And sleep pressure builds up, and it's kind of, you can think of sleep pressure as your body and brain's hunger for sleep. And so that builds up and it makes us sleepy at night. And then when we go to sleep, it actually gets flushed out or gets cleared out of our body and brain. And then it kind of starts all again the next day. So those are the two main systems that help us stay healthy and keep our sleep, consistent and regular.
Right. Yeah, I remember reading about that in both your book and Why We Sleep. And there's one really interesting part. I don't know which book I read this from, but it was talking about how when you pull like all nighters, how like certain times you feel really awake. I know a lot of family members of mine sometimes can pull all nighters. And they'll pull on it. Even my dad, right? He works a lot. Sometimes on road trips, he'll pull an all nighter, which I know isn't the safest thing. But there's a point where they're really awake, right? Like where it feels like they just slept for 10 plus hours. Why is that?
Yeah, I mean, so your body essentially gets put in a stress state, and in a stress state, adrenaline, noradrenaline, and cortisol, these are the hormones that we would say are the fight or flight hormones, are there. I mean, those hormones are powerful hormones that can give you energy, and they're specifically supposed to be used for getting out of danger. So, like for instance, back in the day when people were getting chased by tigers, that's the fight or flight system. And so, to run away from a tiger, you're going to get a surge of energy. You're going to get a surge of power, if you will. And so, when you don't sleep, if you pull an all nighter, you're essentially stressing your body out, and that's your body trying to find balance. And really, your body thinks that it's getting chased by a tiger. Essentially, that's the sympathetic nervous system response that happens, um, and so that's why that happens.
That's really interesting. So, like when you don't sleep, it tricks your brain, right, into thinking like you're in this panic mode.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way of putting it. So essentially, yeah, it tricks your brain in thinking that you're in a panic mode. And so if you were to pull several all-nighters, eventually you're going to crash, because there's only so much that your body can push out adrenaline and noradrenaline and cortisol, eventually it catches up to you, and that's when you hit the wall.
Yeah, and that wouldn't be good. Now, there's two types of sleep, right, at night. There's NREM sleep, and then there's REM sleep, which REM sleep is a lot more common that people know about. But non-REM sleep, or is it NREM sleep, is the one that actually persists the longest. Can you explain those concepts?
Yeah, so every night we go through several sleep cycles, and there's two different types of sleep. Like you mentioned, there's REM sleep, which most people are familiar with, which is rapid eye movement or dreaming sleep, and then there's non-REM. And so non-REM sleep is really the first three stages of sleep. So there's the stage one, stage two, and stage three. And stage three is the one that we really want to talk about here because that's deep sleep or delta sleep. And that's really when our bodies recover. That's when hormones are released. That's when you can think of that as delta sleep is like the most powerful sleep you can get for your body. And REM sleep is the most powerful sleep you can get for your mind. And so when we talk about sleep quality, we're talking about how can we get more deep sleep or delta sleep, non-REM sleep, and more REM sleep. So those first two stages are important too. You know, your blood pressure starts to drop, your breathing starts to slow down, but really the money sleep hours are is that delta sleep, the non-REM delta sleep, and then you get into REM. So does that make sense?
It does. That makes a lot more sense. And piggybacking on top of that, I was also reading about with your circadian. Is that how you say it? Circadian?
Circadian. Yeah.
Circadian. So your circadian rhythm, how that kind of also controls your non-REM and your REM sleep, and about how like if you were to go to sleep at 10 o'clock, waking up at 6 o'clock, but you wake up at 4 o'clock, you'd actually get no REM sleep at all. Is that right?
Yeah, so most of the REM sleep happens in, if you think of this, if to make this really simple, if you think of your sleep like a football game, the fourth quarter, we'll start with the first quarter, right? So the first quarter is when you get the most delta sleep or non-REM sleep. So that's when your body's really repairing. And then the fourth quarter is where you get most of your REM sleep. And so throughout the night, you know your sleep architecture, you are going in and out of deep sleep and REM sleep in stage two, and you're coming in and out of these different stages of sleep. You know, depending on how long you sleep, will dictate how many cycles you go through. But yeah, if you wake up too early, that definitely cuts into REM sleep, and REM sleep's really important for it's like emotional first aid. It helps consolidate memory. It helps our brains repair. And so yeah, if you're waking up too early, it's definitely gonna you're gonna cut into that important stage sleep.
And REM sleep is also where a lot of people dream. And I know that in holistic Eastern medicine, dreaming is considered a sign of not deep sleep. Is that right?
Well, yeah. So in delta sleep, you're not really dreaming. So in non-REM sleep, you're not dreaming. Your body's essentially is repairing itself. And so dreaming, I would say I would consider that a deep stage of sleep because your body essentially gets paralyzed, so you're not acting out your dreams. Your mind is very active. So some people actually work during their sleep, and they can wake up exhausted if you're trying to figure out problems and solve things, which you can learn to do. But usually when you do that, you wake up a little bit tired because rather than you're trying to your brain is very active. Let's just say that. So yeah, so dreaming is it's a good thing. You want to dream. Dreaming can help you solve problems. Dreaming can you know can can tell you things that you can find solutions to things that you're really trying to work through and on, and it actually can help you with your creative, entrepreneurial dreams. I mean, like when you say like achieve your dreams, right? Like dreaming is is a really important and powerful tool when you create the space to allow it to happen.
And a lot of really amazing people have gotten their biggest accomplishments from dreams. You like, what's his name? Paul McCartney, coming up with the lyrics of Yesterday in a dream. And on the note of hormones connected to sleep, and how when you're tired, you get more agitated, more stressed out because of those hormones. So, what's the correlation of hormonal changes in teens connected to how much they sleep?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, let's first start off, when you're sleeping, that's when your hormones are being released and optimized, essentially. Growth hormone, testosterone. And when you're a young man, when you're a teen, there's a lot of things that are changing, right? You're going through puberty. So there's testosterone, a lot more testosterone and growth hormone, and your body's growing, and so if you're not getting enough sleep as a teen, you're not allowing your body to really fully optimize those hormones as well as they could, which could lead to you not growing as much as you would hope, or repairing yourself from the sports that you're playing, or the cognitive challenges that you're trying to solve. So hormones are really, really important, and especially in these there's a couple ages where hormones get ramped up, and being a teen is definitely one of those. So which is why it's so important to prioritize sleep, so you can optimize that and you can capitalize on all that growth hormone and all that testosterone to really fully develop into a man or a woman.
Yeah, and my parents would always talk about how I would grow a lot during the summer. Like when I didn't have school, I was able to sleep in and grow a lot more. And during those times, I think I probably slept many days more than the 8 hours that suggested. Does sleeping more than you're required to, does that help make you taller, help with hormonal changes, or is it just kind of useless sleep after 8 or 9 hours?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and it's hard to answer. So when you're a teenager, you actually can need more than 8 hours. You can need between, depending on your age and your um, genetics and the physical activity and all of that, it can range. I think the National Sleep Foundation for teenagers, ages 6 to 13, it's like from 9 to 11 hours, and for teens 14 to 17, it's 8 to 10 hours. So it changes depending on again, there's a lot of factors there, but so a good way to figure out how much sleep you need is to sleep without an alarm clock. And so see how long you sleep, and that's consistently, do that for a couple days. Your body will start to, as long as you're doing most of the right things, your body will tell you, okay, well, hey, I'm an 8 hour guy, maybe I'm an 8.5, maybe I'm a 9 hour guy, maybe I'm a 10 hour guy, depending on you know again what your lifestyle is. Are you an athlete? What's your genetics? A lot of factors there. So you got to experiment.
Yeah, I'm gonna try that soon. And so the sleeping in, is that healthy to even past 10 hours? Say you sleep from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. Is that healthy?
Yeah, it's a great question. So really, to increase sleep quality, you want to have consistency in your sleep. So sleeping, going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time is really important, because that's going to help your body stay in sync with its circadian rhythms, which is really important, like we talked about. So occasionally sleeping in after a night of not great sleep for a teenager would be fine, but you technically can't catch up on sleep. So what happens is, remember that other sleep system we were talking about, the sleep pressure system with adenosine. If you're not getting enough sleep, what happens is that adenosine doesn't clear out, and it creates what we call in sleep science sleep debt. And that is a debt that can't be repaid. So that's why it's not like a credit card debt where you can just pay it off. It actually continues to carry over. So, ideally you want to try to go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time. Sleeping in here and there is not going to make that big of a difference, but it's you want to make sure that you're getting enough sleep and it's consistent, and that's important.
Yeah, consistency. Very important word. Now, back to a lot of Eastern traditions I grew up with. There is this concept, or there is this concept, that there are certain times of the night that are standard for everyone that do certain things. Like for 11 p.m. to 12 p.m., this is not off my memory, but pretend 11 p.m., 12 p.m. is good for hormones. 12 p.m., 1 p.m. is good for uh, muscle growth, whatever. Is there a certain type of standard clock that certain things happen at certain times of the night based on like the regular time?
So that's a great question. You have such good questions here. So based off of your unique chronotype, so we each have what it's called chronobiology. And again, I don't want to get too technical here, but we all have a different circadian clock, and that's based off of our genetics. And so you've heard the term then night owl and morning lark. Have you heard those terms? Are you a night owl or morning lark? So those are chronobiological terms. And so depending on what your unique chronotype is would dictate what your ideal sleep schedule is. So night owls actually it's more conducive and harmonious for them to go to bed a little bit later. Or if you're a morning person or more like a morning type person, then it's probably more conducive for you to go to bed to wake up to go to bed earlier and wake up earlier, right? So it's really everyone's going to go through those different stages of sleep and have their unique sleep architecture, but depending on your unique chronobiology, it's going to dictate when is the best time for you to go to bed and when is the best time for you to wake up based off of your unique genetics and biochemistry.
So it kind of like is certain times of a night, but that's subjective to each person. So like 10 p.m. for one person might be considered, 8 p.m. for another person. So like there is a set times of the night, right, where things happen, but that is all subjective to the person.
Yeah, and for most people, the money sleep hours are really from like 10 p.m. to 2 p.m. That's when you're getting most of your good deep sleep, that first quarter of the night. And then like I said, most of your REM sleep happens in the fourth quarter of the night for most people. And so you are getting some REM the first, second and third quarter as well, but most of the deep sleep happens in that first half of the night. And that's usually for most people around 10 p.m. to 2 p.m. So generally speaking.
Right, right. And yeah, this was very informational, Devin. And now I kind of want to get into some more of the actionable things that everyone listening can do to improve their sleep. And first of all, the concept of digital technology, right? I think Matthew Walker in his book talked about how he used the word gadgets, right? Gadgets everywhere. And you further talked about that, how screen time, blue light is terrible for sleep. And my favorite part of your book was talking about sleep rituals and sleep routines. What would you say for a general rule of thumb is a good sleep routine?
Yeah, so that's a great another. I love these questions. So a great sleep routine is again, it's going to be a little bit unique and different for everyone, but you want to make sure in the book I talk about the 3-2-1 sleep. So essentially, 3 hours before bed, you want to stop eating. The reason is because when our bodies that first quarter of the night, we want to get into deep sleep. We don't want our bodies digesting food, and if you eat too late at night, it gets in the way of of that process happening. 2 hours before you want to be asleep, you want to stop work. So in the case of teens, you don't want to be doing homework, right? And then 1 hour before bed, you want to avoid all electronics and you want to start your sleep ritual, which could look like, for a teenager, it could look like stretching, reading. It could look like, I mean, doing something relaxing that doesn't involve technology. And I know that's a really challenging one for all your listeners because, you know, probably most of them are on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all the latest social platforms late into the night, text messaging. But really, if you could avoid that technology, that last hour, it would really make a difference in sleep quality, and you would wake up, feel better, and be better engaged with your friends and just be more present and productive. So, again, sleep experiments are important to figure out your ideal sleep ritual, and that's going to depend on again your unique preferences and your lifestyle, and there's a lot of things there. But was that helpful?
It was very helpful, and I did want to show you something. So here's my calendar. I've been trying to time block lately, and so after I finished your book, I wanted to. I don't know if you can see it because of the inverted mirror, but we got right here, sleeping zone number one. No more food. That goes until, well, technically it goes the rest of the night, but I put it until 8, and then 8 o'clock. No more work, and then we got 9 o'clock. No more screen time, and then we got the sleep ritual, so journaling, uh, herbal tea and reading, and then meditation and stretching.
Wow, that is an awesome sleep ritual. I love it. And you know what I love even more is you have it in your calendar, time blocked out. So you have a reminder to remind you, hey, okay, it's time to get to it. But yeah, so journaling, meditating, I mean, all of those things are amazing things that you can do for a sleep ritual. So I appreciate you sharing that. That's awesome. And have you found that it's helped you, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I started that pretty recently, but I know that even before this, I watched a couple YouTube videos about similar type of things, and it definitely helps a lot. It's really difficult in the beginning because there's so many things that, for specifically technology, that involve technology, like journaling. I like to journal on my phone because it's easier. Things like that that do take adapting to other alternatives, but it definitely helps. And I'm able to go to sleep like that, right? Instead of sitting in bed waiting for an hour.
Glad to hear it. There we go. Anecdotal evidence for all your listeners. Give it a try and see how it makes the difference. Love it.
That was my favorite part of the book, right? Talking about those actionable things that I can really do. Because the facts are really important in understanding how important sleep is. But then when I went to that section, I think it was section 3, section 2, where it was talking about those sleep rituals and now sleep sanctuaries, talking about how setting up your bedroom to maximize for sleep. You talk about making sure you have like a different place to work than your bedroom, which can be a little tricky for kids who really have everything in one room. What's the best way to maximize space with that in mind?
Yeah. So the best thing you could possibly do if you're doing your homework or work in your bedroom is actually have a ritual around closing it out. So for instance, let me give you for instance, shutting your laptop down and off and putting it in a drawer so that you can't see it. And putting your books away or putting your book bag in the closet so you're not like reminded of the test that's coming up the next day. So physically doing something to close out that now I am done with my schoolwork, now I am done with my work, and now this is just my bedroom. Having a physical routine around that would really be important for all your listeners who don't have maybe a home office yet and are working from their bedroom or doing their homework from their bedroom, or so having a space. You don't want to be doing homework or work in your bed. That's just really not good sleep hygiene. So creating a space, even if it's just, if, let's say you don't have a lot of room, if you just have a cardboard box, or, and you're sitting on the floor and you're working on the cardboard box, and then, whatever you can create, you don't want to be doing work in your bed, homework, anything. Your bed is for sleeping. So make it, that's because you're training your brain that when you're in bed, it's time for sleep. And so if you're eating in bed and you're doing homework in bed and you're working in bed and you're playing video games in bed, it's just you're not um, it's not ideal. Let's just put it that way.
And on that note about making sure you shut off computers, um, I've been pretty good about making sure I keep my phone and any other technology, excluding my computer, that I can shut off, but keeping those type of things in the kitchen when I go to sleep. Is there a lot of evidence that shows that having a phone that's on, even if it's on the table instead of on your nightstand, is there evidence that shows that it's healthier to keep it far away?
Yeah, so all of our devices emit what we call EMFs, or electromagnetic frequency. And so we really don't know the long-term health ramifications of um, those electromagnetic frequencies. So, there are now some interesting research and studies showing that it can be harmful to your health. So I would say just don't risk it. And it also makes it a lot easier if you're not bringing the tech into the bedroom, if you're leaving it out, in another room. That temptation to jump onto TikTok or do some research or text a friend or whatever it is, that could get in the way of you really getting the sleep that you need.
Yeah, definitely. So for all the kids out there, make sure you keep your phone outside your room. I think for me, in sleep routines, is I'm pretty good about going to sleep before 10:30, because I feel tired. But waking up is a different story, especially because I try to wake up early, like 6:30, and there isn't a specific need to, like, I don't have to be somewhere right until maybe 8. So what would be a good routine with school in mind? Say school starts at 8 o'clock. What would you say is a really good routine for getting yourself up, awake, and not going back to bed?
Yeah, that's a so first things first, you want to have a glass of water right by your bed. Reason being is we can lose up to a liter of water throughout the night just from breathing and from sweating. And so you wake up, your eyes open, and I think it's good to, before you even start to drink the water, just check in, like put your hand on your heart and think something. Oh, okay, here's another day. Let's make it a great day. Have a positive affirmation. Then you get out of bed, you drink that water so you get hydrated. That'll start to wake your body up, and then you could go and splash some cold water on your face. That'll definitely sort of start to wake up the system. And then if you have a practice like journaling or meditating or maybe some exercise, you go outside for a walk, that helps sync your circadian rhythm. So you can get that sun on your skin, and you can get some energy moving that way. If you can do something for your mind and your body before school starts, not only are you going to have more energy, you're going to be more productive, you're going to remember things better, and you're just going to show up as the best version of yourself. People are going to be like, "Whoa, what? Who is this person?" Like you're going to show up like like a superhuman, and then people, your friends, are going to be like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And then you can share with them, "Hey, I'm doing this morning routine. I start with gratitude, water, a little exercise, a little journaling, a little meditation, and you can inspire all your friends to really, have a routine like that."
Definitely. Morning routines, as much as I try to follow them, have been amazing. You wake up feeling refreshed, and the rest of the day generally tends to go. I don't know if you heard the quote, the first 30 minutes, first an hour of your day can basically dictate the rest of your day. And on that note about school, a lot of people, especially sleep coaches like yourself, advocate uh, what for later start times for school. What's your opinion about that?
I think it's a great idea. And the reason for it is because Teens and kids need more sleep. And a lot of these school start times are way too early. So the kids are having, and the teens are having to get up too early, and they're not getting that juicy REM sleep. They're not getting that good stuff. And that's, you know, not only is that inhibiting their bodies from building, but it's also getting in the way of their minds developing and being able to retain the important information that they're learning in school. So I think it's fantastic if school districts can, you know, understand how big of a difference that would make in their students' performance and health, and push those school times back a little bit to give more space for teens and kids to get more sleep.
Definitely love having later start time. And not just kids who listen to the show, but a lot of parents listen to the show. Many who are also entrepreneurs themselves, who are oftentimes overworked, they're stressed, and that leads to sleep that isn't the best. And a lot of them go to things like sleep pills and things that aren't the greatest. So, flipping it around, what are some things for everyone listening definitely not to do to help you sleep?
Yeah. So alcohol, and I know this isn't a problem for the kids and the teen, well, the kids and the teens that are listening to this, but for the parents specifically, you don't want to consume alcohol, because alcohol, it might make you sleepy, but it gets in the way of that juicy REM sleep, and it disturbs sleep. I mean, sleeping pills are also have a lot of side effects. There is a time and a place for sleeping pills for adults, um, but oftentimes the biggest thing that gets in most people's way from sleeping is they don't master stress. They don't understand how to not just manage stress, but master it. And that is, stress is the number one thing that keeps adults up. And probably I would go so far to say it's the number one thing that keeps teens and kids up too. You know, pressure to perform and to achieve, and you know, stressed about their, you know, what's going on in their social groups. And so having, you know, ways of mitigating that stress and understanding it and getting support to process that stress from a coach or a therapist, um, or, you know, implementing techniques like meditation are really, or mindfulness, are really important, and can really make a huge difference for not only adults but also for teens and kids.
Caffeine.
So remember when we talked about the two sleep systems? So we talked about the circadian rhythm, and then we talked about sleep pressure. Well, caffeine unfortunately blocks adenosine. And remember, adenosine is what builds up in our brains and bodies that makes us feel sleepy. So caffeine actually blocks the receptors in our brain, which is why you get that energized feeling. So, you know, a cup of coffee in the morning for an adult is okay, but if you're relying on anything, or even like for teens, like energy drinks, if you're having to rely on energy drinks to keep you alert and awake, and yeah, that's not a healthy, because it's getting in the way of that natural sleep process happening, that adenosine building up. And so it's just not a sustainable approach. So I recommend just limiting caffeine. You know, a little bit here and there is okay, but just really, if you're relying on it, not good.
A person, drink a cup of coffee every morning, 8 o'clock. How would that be a detrimental effect to sleep?
So the half life of caffeine is between 6 and 8 hours, depending on the type of caffeine and how strong it is. And everyone processes caffeine a little bit differently. So depending on your genetics, there's going to be a factor there. But really, for people that wake up, the first thing you want to do is hydrate. And caffeine's a diuretic, so it dehydrates you. And when you wake up, your hormone cortisol, the stress hormone, is the highest. So you want to wait at least an hour or 2 hours before you drink a cup of coffee after you wake up, because caffeine is and caffeine found in coffee, it's kind of like, if you think of it, it's, you're dumping gasoline on a fire first thing in the morning, and that's not what you want, because it's going to increase your cortisol, which is going to increase your stress. So if you can wait to have that cup of coffee like an hour or two after you wake up, that would be ideal.
I'll make sure to let my dad know that. And my last question for you, Devin, is a quote that was in your book. You said, "Sleep is the single most effective way to reset our brain, body, and health each day. And a lot of teens, a lot of kids don't, I wouldn't say value sleep, but don't think about it, right? And therefore don't get a lot of it. What's your pitch to sleep to all the teens out there, teen entrepreneurs, people who want to become kid entrepreneurs? What's your pitch about getting more sleep?
Here it is. We do it 1/3 of our entire life. And why not optimize that 1/3 to make the other 2/3 extraordinary, to be the best version of yourself, to have the ideas, to look your best, to feel your best, and to do your best. So, really, if you protect and prioritize that 1/3 of your life that you're going to be in bed, I can guarantee you the other 2/3 are going to be so much better. And so that's my pitch. If we do it, we're doing it anyway. You're going to be spending time in bed. Why not make sure that time in bed is the most optimized time it can be, so that you can really show up and live your life. And really, it's about living. It's not about sleeping. Sleep is just the vessel that gives us the energy to live. And when you're getting more of it and you're getting enough of it, you're gonna feel it. So there's my pitch.
That was amazing, Devin. And once again, thank you so much for coming on the show. Probably one of the best interviews I've ever done. And sleep is super important. Like you just talked about, sleep is super important. And so that all the kids out there, all the teens out there listening, get more sleep. Thank you, Devin, for coming on the show today.
Ben, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.